Alright, in this video I'm going to show you how to create a background with color and pattern and a gradient in Photoshop. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and start off by creating a new file. We're going to make this one 8.5 by 11, so 8.5 by 11 inches. We're going to name this background. Oh, it's in it, first initial, last name, underscore background. Okay, we're going to leave it set to pixels, inches, 300 pixels per square inch. Let's do RGB color with a white background and go ahead and hit create. Alright, if you get this pattern on here, the grid, Command H should turn it off. If it does not, you can go to Window and then Extras and uncheck that button. Okay, so let's go ahead and View, and then uncheck the button. We're going to look for our tools and our layer panel. Again, layer panel is super important when you are working, oh my goodness, in Photoshop. There we go. Okay, so let's go ahead and start. There's a couple ways you can create a background. Okay, we're going to start in your layer panel. So if you go to your adjustment layers and you go to solid color, here it should pop up the color picker, and you can go ahead and create any color in here, hit OK, and it's going to create a layer for you. So you can go ahead and it's got a mask, right? So if you wanted to use your paintbrush tool, and we're going to learn more about this later this week, you could come in and paint, and that's going to paint that color because I am not on the layer mask. So let me undo that. Make sure you're on the layer mask with a black or white paintbrush. And then if you come in, it's going to erase because black is going to hide this color, okay? If I wanted to reveal it again, I could switch it back to white. All right, so that's one way. I'm gonna go ahead and delete that. The next way would be to go and create a gradient using your adjustment layer, okay? So again, just like in Illustrator, you can create gradients in Photoshop. So this is the gradient editor. There's a whole bunch of different colors in here that you can use, like a ton, okay? And they kind of separate it by colors, by shades, pastels, neutrals, blues, reds, okay? So, and you can always come in here and change this. So to change a color gradient, if you double click on this box right here, it'll pop up this color stop picker. You can come in here, and if you wanted to add a stop, you see that little hand. If you click, you can come in here and add a color stop, or 2 or 3 or 10 if you wanted to. Go ahead and change these colors a little bit. Okay, these triangles or diamonds are going to spread the distance. Oops, if you want to delete a color stop, just hit delete. Delete this one. And, okay, so these diamonds right here, if you click on them, they kind of adjust the spread or how far apart your gradient will be between the next color. So it can either be nice and smooth, which is right in the middle, or it can be nice and sharp, which is right up against the edge, okay? You can change the smoothness. You can change it if it's a solid, or you can add noise to it, which is kind of crazy. I actually never used that before, so that's an option. You can give it a name, okay, if you wanted to. You can create a new gradient. So say you liked this and you wanted to use it, you could go to new, and it would save this gradient in your gradient file, and then you hit OK. You can change how the gradient falls by right here where it says gradient fill. You can change radial, angle, linear, obviously, reflected, diamond, okay? You can change the scale of your gradient. You can change where it sits within your document. You can change the method of it, perceptual, linear, smooth, classic, stripes, okay? So all of these things you can change. So this is like a solid gradient rather than a nice smooth gradient, okay? And that was under stripes. So hit OK, and here's your gradient layer, okay? The next way is to create a pattern layer. So if you go to pattern, oops, I accidentally created. All right, so we're gonna create our own patterns coming up soon this week. But I'm gonna show you how to change the default patterns in Photoshop. So once I click pattern and your pattern fill pops up, there's some basic patterns in here. Kind of boring, there aren't many to choose from, right? So this first one is trees. If I clicked on this one, and I can come in and I can change the angle that they're sitting at. I can change how big they are, how zoomed in it is to that pattern. Snap to origin, that's not a huge deal right now. Okay, so I can also click on the plus. Let me see if this is gonna work, maybe not. Okay. Okay, so if I click on the setting wheel, when I click on the pattern here and I click on the setting wheel, if I go append default patterns, I can import patterns here, and we're gonna learn how to do that in just a bit. All right, so those are patterns. That was a pattern I made out of my cat. You can hit OK. All right, and then let's see, let's go ahead and delete this. You can also use the paint bucket tool over here to do a solid color, okay? So just like we did at the beginning, I can click on my paint bucket, come in here, click on my color picker, and choose a color and dump paint. Now what that did, it just filled in the background layer. Okay, so it didn't give me an adjustment layer where I can go in and change it. I'd have to go back in and pick a new color, hit OK, and then I can change it from here. Up here, I can click on pattern, and my patterns will pop up right here. I can pick a new pattern and drop that on the artboard. But you see in the adjustment layer, I was able to go in and change the angle and the size. I can't do that if I just do it here. So what I have to do is I have to double click. Oh, nope, it won't let me. Okay. So that's a way to add a pattern. If I click and hold the paint bucket tool open, I can click on gradient tool, and here are my gradients. If I come in here, so to use your gradient in Photoshop this way, if I have to actually tell it where to put my gradient. So I'm going to click and drag my gradient. Okay, so you can tell that the other way is a little bit better when creating a gradient using your layer adjustment. Okay, so you can come in here and there's some options you can change. I don't like this method. It used to be much easier to do it this way. They have changed some things, so I prefer doing the adjustment layer. That way I can come in and change it as I need it. You've got some options up here. Okay. All right, so what I want you to do for this assignment is create a background, create a document, just like I did, the 8.5 by 11. I want you to have 3 layers. I want to have a solid, pattern, a gradient, and then a solid color. Okay, so it doesn't matter which method you choose. I honestly would prefer if you did the adjustment layer. That way you can come in and modify them if you need to and change things and how it looks. Okay, I would definitely do the adjustment layer over the paint bucket tool and clicking and doing the pattern. I used to use that method, like I said, but I'm not really digging it now that it's updated a bit. All right, so I would suggest using your adjustment layer. Do a solid color. Oh my gosh, I cannot grab it. Gradient, and then adjust it, change it, pick a gradient so you can see what's going on in there, and then pattern. Okay, adjust the pattern. Don't leave it exactly how it was set up. Choose a different one, hit OK. All right, so you're gonna turn it in. It'll look just like this, so I can click and hide these and see what you've done. Okay, so you're gonna save this. So let's see, go save as. Just turn in your Photoshop document on this one. So put it in your Google Drive, in My Drive, in your graphics project folder, and save.